Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel and the series about data engineering and data science in Microsoft Fabric. My name is Estera and today Qixiao is joining me to discuss integration of Fabric Spark with VS Code. We will discuss about end-to-end experience of VS Code extension that we ship for Fabric Spark workloads. Qixiao, thank you for being here. Can you please take a moment and share a couple of thoughts, words of your role and projects you are working and leading?
Yes, thank you, Esther, for having me today. Hi again, everyone. My name is Qixiao. I'm also together with Esther in the PM team of the Fabric Spark. And more specifically, I was focused on the developer experience of our data engineering developer and also data science developer experience in Fabric Spark. And today, I'd like to share with some kind of the cool things we have been working the past months for how to helping our pro dev developers to use the VS Code, the most loved IDE, I would say, in doing the coding and artifacts development in Fabric.
Can you start by introducing what are the ways of authoring code in Fabric?
For data science and data engineering personas, we basically have two kind of the code artifacts per se. One is the notebooks. Basically, the user can use the notebooks to do some kind of the interactive authoring and run the code cell, to write the code cell, see the result, this kind of the more interactive run the code. The other way is we call it the Spark job definitions. Basically, once the user using their own IDEs, after they do all the development, having compiling output, they can upload the binaries. It could be jar files. For Python, it could be the Python script, and into the fabrics and run the jobs as a batch jobs in the fabrics. So basically, these are two different code artifacts we already have in current Fabric. In terms of the authoring experience, in our Fabric portals, we already have the notebooks. UX there, you can author the notebooks. We also have the SADs authoring page. But on the other side, we know that for the pro dev developers, they have this kind of their own preference of different IDEs. Today, VS Code is one of the, I would say, most popular IDEs or code editors for Java developers, for Python developers. So that's why we also like to authoring. We also like to support the user to use the VS Code to author their code in the IDE inside the VS Code. But at the same time, they can also sync the local IDE code change onto the fabrics. So that's why we also have this kind of the VS Code extensions for fabrics the user can use, install in locally, and develop their notebook code locally on the VS Code side. And also they can sync the change back to the Fabric workspace. So that's basically one way is on the Fabric portals do the authoring. The other way is inside the VS Code IDEs to do the authoring. Okay, yeah. For the folks maybe didn't hear VS Code yet, but I really doubt that that's the case. But anyway, so VS Code is the open source lightweight code editors for Microsoft. It's a cross-platform things. You can run on Windows, Mac, Linux, and in the past several years, since its launch, it's just quickly has been well accepted or adopted by the developers around the world. I would say maybe this is the most successful open source project, one of the successful open source projects from Microsoft.
When developers want to stop using notebooks, they can just switch to IDE. One of them from Microsoft is VS Code. Another from JetBrains, very popular, is PyCharm. Do we have other popular that will help us to understand what is the landscape?
I think it depends on the language. For example, for R, which is already supported in the current fabrics, R Studio maybe is the more kind of the well-accepted IDEs environment for R developers. For Java, again, you mentioned that in JetBrains. For Python, they have PyCharms. For Java, they have the IntelliJs. I think this depends on the different language, and maybe the different IDEs fit more. But for VS Code, it's kind of support all of them: Java, Python, even C Sharps and Ruby, R, and also the what else? I think the most TypeScript for sure, JavaScript. This different language has been supported by the VS Code.
And the biggest difference is just it's free. So no way, like you don't have to pay for that. And as well, there are tons of
I think
plugins.
that's one of the most, I would say, most powerful things for VS Code is basically they have these kind of extension frameworks, different language. You just need to install different extensions, but the core experience inside IDE has been supported by the VS Code. It's very easy to kind of extend to support a different language. But I think in the past years, TypeScript, Python, Java, C Sharps, Go, this most popular language has been well supported by the VS Code.
Okay, and now let's jump into the demo. So how the integration of VS Code and Fabric looks like. I'm really interested and want to see that.
Now I'm in the Fabric portals. I have this the workspace opens, and now I'm on my first the notebooks. So you can see in these notebooks, it is attached to the one of the lakehouse. This lakehouse is hosting some kind of CSV files from the New York yellow chips dataset. The first code is very simple. It just load the CSV and show the first 10 record from that the CSV file. If I run it, it just showing the running the spot job and showing the result there. And you notice that these small icons open the VS Code. So once we click that, let me finish the code out first. See the session start very quick, much better than the previous the Synapse. So okay, you can see the result, like the 40 seconds. So if I click this opening VS Code buttons, what actually happens is the my VS Code should pops up, and several things happen here. So first of all, you need to install this our VS Code extension here in the marketplace. With these small icons actually stands for the Synapse VS Code extension for Fabrics. So when I click the opening VS Code, the VS Code will pops up and help me to switch the workspace I'm already in the Fabric portals. So here you can see that the the Synapse VS Code demo. This is the name of the workspace I already picked in the portals, and under here we have three different categories of the artifacts we support: notebook, spot job, and lakehouse. So for notebooks, that notebook I just clicked actually has been downloaded to the local VS Code site, and the notebook folders has been automatically opened for me in in the VS Code. So what happened here is to summarize the VS Code will be automatically activated, and the notebook contents of that selected notebook will be automatically downloaded to the local site if it's not open yet before. So here now I can open the same notebooks. I can see the code cell, I can see the result tab. And one of the key enablings in this extension is actually besides the extensions, we also install a special Jupyter kernel. We call it Synapse Spark kernel. So this is the kernel actually is doing the magic things. Magic thing meaning about this kernel will detect in your notebook code cell if any Spark code is used, then the call will be posted to the remote Spark clusters, the remote Spark compute on your fabrics. So you can see that when I click the run, now the VS Code side tried to using the Synapse kernels to establish the connection with the remote Spark on the fabrics and post this code cell to run on the remote Spark. We see that it's starting running. It might take some more times compared with the times using in the portal because they have a local to the remote. So you see that I can run out this code cells has been posted from my local VS Code and to the remote clusters and run it, and I can grab the data down and show in my local VS Code side. So this is the really things that going to happen is that you can edit your code locally and run your code on the remote clusters. So to prove I'm not lying, so let me switch back to the extension panel and expand the lakehouse. So you can see that under this lakehouse, I don't have any files. Now let me add another code cell, and for this data set, let me just pick the first 10 lines and write it to the file section of the lakehouse. And if you run it, once the code cell is done, I will refresh these file sessions, you will notice that this VS Code demo, the Delta table has been created under these file sessions. Now you will see that separate folders, these separate folders, Delta folder has been created. This is because I just run the code cell from my local side and posted that code cell into remote cluster and file up a Spark job there. And now this new table is created on the VS Code side. So you can see that with these extensions, we enabling the you can author your local code on the VS Code on the notebook and run your code on remote clusters. And even better, we can enable the debuggings. So if I set a breakpoint here and just debug the code cell, you can even just like you're debugging your regular code in your VS Code IDE environment. You can step through all the different variables and show the variables values here in the local stack. So basically, run your code, debug your code, notebook code inside the VS Code with these extensions.
Qixiao, thank you so much. I love the demo. Now I'm wondering from the developer's background. The key concept of modularity is that we write one code and import the code from different packages, libraries, and in general, utils. So in Synapse and in different similar tools, we have the concept of importing some or executing different notebooks as part of the pipeline. Can we do that here?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let me switch back to my demo again. So we do support that kind of scenarios. So actually, recent days we roll out a cool feature for notebook. We call it file systems. The file system basically meaning that you can within the notebook folders, you can create the PY files as a modules, and you can within the PY files you can define certain functions that you like to reuse in the notebook. So in this example, you can see I have this util.py as a module created in these folders, in these notebook folders, and within this py module, I just have some quick sample to converting the format of the parsing the date times. Now in my notebooks, I have this. I just added a new code cell here. So import these modules, and now let me set a breakpoint to demo. Actually, this module has been invoked from the notebook side. So if I hit debugging, yeah, you see that the py file has been imported and the function has been invoked. Now I can debug the py module inside my VS Code from this notebook. So once the execution is done, you notice that the second columns of the data frame actually is converted the datetime format. The starting is the date, month, years. But the original format is actually the month, date, years. After I make some change in my local side, because still all the code is still stay in my local VS Code. Now, how we're going to make this code available in my notebooks in the Fabric workspace? So if I switch back to the extension panel, you will notice that there are several buttons here assigned the notebooks. So if you like to publish the notebook content back to the workspace, we have the published buttons. So once you click that, so basically we're going to publish, upload or synchronize your local VS Code change of the content of the notebooks back to the workspace. We also have this additional public resource folder buttons. This button will just, when you click that, you are going to publish your local file system change back to the remote workspace. And also on the other side, if you like to just grab the remote file system change back to the local side, you can also click this update file system folders. After you click that, the file system change on the remote workspace will also be synchronized back to the local side. So this way you can basically synchronize your local change and versus the change on the remote workspace.
That is phenomenal. So finally, we can just implement true modularity here.
Yes, through the file system support of the notebooks, you can upload the PY modules there in the file system. Just import the files, import the PY module into your notebooks, and run your notebooks. So that way you can just kind of organize or modularize your functions modules in the different PY files and make it much more kind of organizable.
Can you walk us through the installation process, or just describe the installation process of VS Code extension for Fabric Spark?
Yeah.
Are there any also specific requirements, system requirements?
So we already have the full documentations, guide users how to use these extensions. So before you, so first of all, we already in the marketplace in the VS Code marketplace. So if you search Synapse VS Code, see this?
Yeah.
This is the Synapse VS Code. So from here you can install the our extensions. But before you do that, you need to install certain software in your desktop. So we depends on the Java, and you need to have the Java install it, and also we need the conduct because we leverage the conduct to install that Synapse Spark kernel I just mentioned, and also we are depending on the Jupyter extensions. So what you just seen in the demos, all the notebook experience actually we depends on the Jupyter extensions. So before you install these extensions, making sure you have the Java 1.8 conduct and also the Jupyter extensions. And again, I just like to share with some quick updates. Is since the launch, we do receive quite user feedback saying that, hey, this is kind of the extra steps. For example, once you install that, you also need to set the Java home. You also need to put the conduct into your path. There's still too much things. I mean, so that's why we are also working on some kind of the updates will be released soon. Is that we're supporting the Docker. So meaning that we will have a pre-built Synapse Fabric Spark image. Within that image, everything is there. All the required environments, all the required dependencies is there. So you can use the VS Code.dev containers directly. Once you download the image in your local, you can attach your VS Code into that image. And basically, we are supporting the Docker-based or container-based development. So once we release that, maybe we can have another gathering and show you the cool things there. But right now, you need to have the Java conduct, Jupyter extensions, and also after that, you can install our extension from the marketplace.
Yeah, it sounds that right now it's just the developers set up Java, Conda, for sure, Python, and the last element was Jupyter. But in the future, it sounds that just Docker pulls one element, Docker, pulling the image, and I don't have to have VS Code because I have just one app that I will run from thanks to the Docker.
You still need to have VS Code, but just use the VS Code containers to attach to that image.
Super. I'm really looking forward to using that because it really will simplify and ramp up the adoption. Okay, Qixiao, it looks that yes, if I have the VS Code right now, I can just install a couple of libraries and take advantage of this great feature. In the future, thanks to the Docker. What about the browser? As a couple of months ago, I saw that Microsoft announced that right now I can use VS Code from the browser.
Right. Thanks for bringing up that one, Estera. Actually, we are also working on that. So let me switch to another quick demo. So you see that I'm open the inside the VS Code.div. Basically, this is the insider mode of the VS Code. You notice that actually we also have the Synapse icons here stands for the extension which is hosting inside the VS Code.div. So once you install that, similarly, how you're going to switch the different workspace, selecting the workspace. Now here's you can see I have notebooks, the same notebook artifacts from the same workspace. I can open the notebook here inside the VS Code.div, and I can do all the authoring inside the VS Code, and I can also run the notebooks inside the VS Code.div. For example, now I need to select the kernels for this the notebook. Now if I click run, similarly as you run the notebook inside our Fabric portals, now you can run your notebooks inside the VS Code.div. So basically, for the authoring experience, you can leverage in the VS Code.div environment, the Pro Dev environment for all the cool features for the Pro developers. And this is authoring, and also you can run your notebook code cell inside the VS Code.div. We are still working on the debugging experience, but that's something we're going to land very soon. So once we land that, you can have the closed loop. Closed loop meaning that you can author your code, you can debug your code, you can run your code inside the VS Code.div for your Fabric notebook. You see, I can run a notebook code cell inside the VS Code.div.
Looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
What are the limitations, or maybe what are the best practices when I should use VS Code, when I should use just notebooks, and when I should use other options like the browser experience?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the scenario. What I mean by that is that I think if you are, because you see that for the VS Code desktop versions, you can basically work complete offline. Once you download your notebook content into local desktops, maybe in the early development stage, I like to leverage in my local compute to quickly try some different libraries. I just install it in my local environment. I try it and doing some kind of the development completely offline. And once I'm happy with my code, with my update, I can just push back to the remote workspace. Yeah, I think we have two different options right here. Right, one is the VS Code desktop, one is the browser, the VS Code.div. I think it depends on the scenarios. What I mean by that is that in the early development stage, as a developer, once I download the content into my notebook, into my VS Code, I can just do the development completely offline. I can install the different libraries in my local desktop and try it. And once I'm happy with the change, I can publish the change back to the remote workspace. Just most of the time, I can just using my local compute. But once my code is online, is already in the productions, if I notice something bad, I just really like to make a quick fix.
Yep.
Then I think I can just directly open my notebooks inside the VS Code.div. I don't need to download the code. I just can quickly make some change there and see if it's right. Then immediately the change will be applied to the remote workspace to the Fabric workspace. So I think what I'm trying to say is that maybe in the earliest development stage, the developers still like to leverage in the desktop versions and do the heavy development locally. And once they release to the productions, when they release to the workspace, if they need do some kind of the quick fix or small change, they don't need to download the code. They can directly open the notebook inside of VS Code and just run it and just change it. I think that's the kind of the two different stage fit for the different tool, kind of the fit for different tool stage.
When I should use notebooks versus VS Code in general, meaning that I guess that majority of our users will just start with notebooks.
Right.
And then they will start discovering the VS Code button. I'm wondering if all our features are supported in VS Code. Can we give a rule of thumb when they should consider starting using VS Code?
So there are we're still working on certain scenarios that we like to enable later. Is the one, for example, the SpyUtil libraries is still just run on the remote workspace. If you need to use the SpyUtil libraries, it's not supported yet in the local side. But for all the Spark APIs and also for Python APIs, it's already supported. So I think that's the one kind of the limitation of the VS Code side, which is not supported, is the SpyUtil. Basically, if you need to use the SpyUtil, for example, run the notebooks from different notebooks, and that scenario is not supported yet in the VS Code side.
Got it. But from the advantages of VS Code, I think that we can, for example, use the reformat option. So all the shortcuts that VS Code by nature is providing, and those shortcuts are making developers' life just better comparing to the notebooks when they have to just type everything one by one and use F5 to search the next appearance of the specific method. You're
right, completely right. I mean, refactoring, final reference, final implementations, and most importantly, as I just demoed, the debugging experience.
Yep.
The debugging experience just only available in the VS Code desktop version right now. You can set a breakpoint, line by line, step into, step over. This kind of I would say for the pro developers, most like the daily activities for the pro developers inside when they develop the code. the debugging experience is only available inside the VS Code.
So here I have to emphasize, as you said, setting breakpoints. We have so many questions how to debug Spark. And okay, you have logs, driver logs, full
UI.
access to logs, UI, Spark history server. You can just debug it up to the specific physical plan, execution plan that Spark Catalyst came up for your query. But here right now we can just debug the code, just see what is the data frame that we are processing one by one as we are doing that for the code. So sounds super phenomenal. Can you recommend some resources for viewers who want to learn more, be closer to this topic? Maybe some tutorials or some websites that they have to check if they want to start with VS Code in Microsoft Fabric?
As I mentioned, we already have the full tutorials inside the Learn doc of the Fabrics. So we have this sort of end-to-end tutorial to guide the usage. But other things I like to call out is really looking forward all the feedbacks, and we also have in the GitHub we have our homepage, and this is our issue page. So I'm really looking forward all the feedbacks and the questions, and if you notice any bugs and if you're missing something, it's not there yet, feel free to file the issue here. So the whole team basically we monitor the issues just from time to time and making sure that we address all the feedbacks.
github.com, the account Microsoft, and the name of the repository is Synapse VS Code.
Yes.
Thank you so much for today. That's all what we have. Qixiao, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching this episode. If you found that valuable, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next episode. Thank you so much.
Bye.